All right. Welcome, everybody. Um, for part of this presentation, I'm going to use this PowerPoint and I'll be talking to you. And if you have questions along the way, I invite you to let me know. Raise your hand, do something that will let me know uh, that you have a question or just start talking. This is called the Basics of Live Streaming Church. No, really. Clever, huh? In this presentation, I hope to give you the basics, the very basic things that you should know if you're going to live stream church or a service of worship of some kind. I realize that everybody is on a different level, maybe. Those who are doing a professional presentation, they don't need this. I'm more interested in reaching those of you who don't have the resources of larger congregations, but yet want to make your worship and the gospel available through the mediums of Facebook or YouTube or something like that across the internet. Now, there are a lot of issues to cover, and I'm no expert. I have done a lot of work in radio, know something about electronics and computers, not on an expert level. But what I do know, I'm willing to share, and I hope that this will help in some ways. Now, the first thing is to ask some questions with regard to live streaming. The four, and I'll take each of them one at a time, and we'll deal with them. Number one, why am I live streaming? Why are you live streaming? Well, if you're like the rest of us, of course, it has a lot to do with COVID. We, in my church, were not live streaming prior to COVID. We talked about it and wanted to do it, but there's always been this sort of widespread debate about whether or not live streaming hurts church attendance. If they can stay home and watch it on live stream, why would they come to church? Well, I don't know that that's a real issue for most folks. It does make service available to people who are just not going to be there. If your people are anything like mine, they're not going to be there every Sunday anyway. Now, the next thing is, why am I live streaming? What will I do after COVID? Well, I do think that this has opened up an opportunity for us as Christians and churches to include this as a part of our weekly ministry and presentation. And for most of us, at least, this will not end. I know some folks in their 90s who are watching their church on Facebook. Now, that's pretty good, I think. It also can be used to expand the church's ministry. Uh, the object of the church in the future is not going to be just to get people in the church, but to get ourselves out of the walls of the church. And this, of course, is just a start, a way to reach out to other people. The second question is, for whom am I live streaming? My own people, the elderly. I just mentioned the 90-year-old who's watching. But there are probably some elderly folks in your congregation or others who don't have access to the internet. Is there a way you can make it available to them, to the congregation or to other people? Folks who do studies on this sort of thing tell me that many people are in fact on Facebook. Now, you may resent some of the things that some people put on there politically, and I try to avoid those kind of things myself. But let's face it, folks are still connecting with each other through Facebook. I've connected with people that I haven't seen since high school, for good or ill. All right. Then we ought to ask who will be involved in the effort. Is it only you? It is a good chance to involve other people if you can. Most, well, maybe that's overstating it. Many congregations have people who are sort of techno interested people. They know a little bit about computers and the internet and are able to read up and study. If you can get on YouTube, you can learn all kinds of things. There are all kinds of videos on YouTube about this sort of thing. So I would advise that you find those people who have some technical savvy to help you do the worship service so that it's not totally on you. If it's you, then you may need to ask for some support or some money, but I think it's always better to have others help. And then the big question is, how much do I need to spend? Well, of course, that depends on what your setup or what you're shooting for. You can do it on very little money, or if you have a donor or some money available, you can improve. But if you're like most of us with this kind of thing during COVID, you were starting from scratch. So today I want to look at just the basics. Now, there are four components to going online. The first is audio. You have to have good sound. If you don't have good sound, I'm told that's a killer. In fact, people who do this regularly say that people will put up with the video that is not perfect, but they won't put up with bad audio for very long. Now, if you're going to use something other than your cell phone, or your cell phone is a computer, you will need some kind of computer. And you'll need some platform, Facebook, YouTube, and some way to get to that. Of course, the easiest thing to do is what some of you are already doing, and that is using your cell phone, iPhone, or any of the cell phones today have pretty good cameras. And you just turn on the camera and start recording. Or you can project that through Facebook by just going to Facebook and clicking on Go Live. Cell phone has both audio and video, though the audio is not as good as the video. If you do use your cell phone, you need to use a tripod to hold it and to put it fairly close to you or to whoever's speaking or singing or whatever. You can also get a very, very cheap microphones to plug in to the iPhone so that you can put the microphone closer to the speaker or to the singer or to whatever. And from your phone, like I say, you can go to Facebook and click Go Live, and you're on. Sometimes it's kind of frightening how easy that is to do. Issues with the cell phone. I said to you earlier that you can get a cheap, reasonable microphone to plug into the phone. If you're using the church's PA system, then there may be an echo if the phone is not connected directly to it. If you're using the phone, go to settings and put the phone on Do Not Disturb, because if you get a call during the midst of the transmission, it will interrupt everything and throw you off. Video cameras in the phone are pretty good, as I said, but please put it on a tripod and don't let somebody try to hold it, or otherwise you'll have people getting seasick during service. All right, basics, audio. You need good audio. Most people have a good sound system in the church already. Use it. You can run a connection from the soundboard to an interface into the computer, and then you can use the sound, bring the sound and the video into your computer. A good sound system is called Scarlett 2i2 Studio. It costs a little money, $200 or $300, and you can plug the microphone into it, and then plug the interface into the computer through the USB port. Or if it's close enough to the speaker, you can use the computer mic, which is not usually very good. Video, phone camera, as I said earlier, project it with your software to your computer. Several softwares will do this. If you're spending money, a Canon Vixia HF R800 is around $250 and will work from the back of most of our sanctuaries or right here in front. This will need to run through a video capture device, which you can get for under $100, and it'll plug into the computer's USB port. You can spend as much money on this as you have to spend. And again, put the camera on a tripod. No one is steady enough to hold it. And one other thing you need to think about with the video is the lighting. I don't think this is a major issue. If you have a good camera like this one, you do need good lighting. A darkened sanctuary will be hard, but most cameras can adapt and you can make it work. You need a computer. Now, if you do it on a cell phone, then cell phone's the computer. But a decent computer, gaming computers are better. 8 gigabytes is okay. 16 gigabytes is better, more useful, and of course with the latest processor. However, if you've got somebody who is good on computers, you know, for a long time I was doing it with a 4 gigabyte computer. You can run all of this On streaming software, there are many. One of the most popular is OBS. It's free, open broadcast suite. It's free and will stream, but it does take a lot of memory to run it. Kind of complicated, but it is doable. There are others, vMix um, and others of that ilk that one can learn and use simply by tuning into YouTube and taking a lesson. Internet connection. You need a good internet Wi-Fi connection. Or better, you could connect hardwire with an Ethernet cable to the computer. Choppy internet means choppy production. I can't emphasize enough that churches need to have a decent Wi-Fi connection. But you know that. And then you need a platform. You can just use Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and that will work. Or you can use a system, which I do. System, one example is StreamYard. You can look it up. I use the free version of it. You can only live stream to one service at a time, Facebook or YouTube, but not both. You have to pay a little money to do that. Restream is another one that has a free version you can use, but also paid versions. And Vimeo, there's so many systems out there. I like these because you aren't expecting your computer to carry the whole load. If you're using your computer, you use StreamYard in your browser, and you just open it up in your browser just like you do Restream. And Restream and Vimeo carry and StreamYard carry the weight of the production. It's easy to use. Again, YouTube is full of how-to videos on what to do. Now, there's some things to consider. The big debate right now is whether or not streaming live or doing a pre-recorded service and projecting it at the hour of the service is the right way to go. Either one is good. Nothing's magical about either one. My folks found it more meaningful to know that they were worshiping at the same time with those who are in the sanctuary worshiping. Pre-recorded is good because it can be edited and worked on prior to the showing. And of course, you can show it at any time. If it's just you, then you can do it with a computer or cell phone at home or in your office or in the sanctuary, live or pre-recorded. If it's a congregation of people you're working with who are present, you need to consider them as well. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out was that remember that this is going out to your Facebook page, which in effect makes it public. And so therefore you need to be aware as you're making announcements that not everybody likes their medical history projected online, or you don't want to make announcements like the one I heard once. A friend of mine was pastor in a large city, was on the radio and announced that he and his wife would be gone from the parsonage for the next 2 weeks. Went out on the radio waves, and when he returned, someone had robbed the parsonage of all kinds of things. So you have to be careful and understand that you're dealing with the public. All right. Well, that's the basic stuff. Do you have any questions as we come now to the end of this presentation? If you do, you see the chat, write your questions in, and I'll try to read them and respond as quickly as possible.